We are live.
She does that so well.
March 19th, we're taking up bills. We're going to take up S323 at 323, the agriculture, miscellaneous agricultural bill. So we don't have a bill sponsor, so.
Where's the chair of the committee?
I don't know.
He has more.
Maybe we didn't invite
Slacker.
him. Maybe it's possible we didn't invite him. But we have a plethora of ledge council. Which ledge council wants to talk about it?
And go first. So I'm Bradley Showman, Office of Legislative Counsel, and with Senate Bill 323, there's a number of sections, and I could walk through the entire bill, or if we're just interested in the sections that might be related to appropriations or impact of funding, I walk through those sections.
Yeah, just the sections that deal with appropriations. I mean, if there's other things that are a major change in policy or something.
Okay.
Or that could have future impact.
Okay, so the first section is actually a section that Ellen is involved with. It is permitting for accessory on-farm businesses, and would increase an exemption for an Act 250 permit for an accessory on-farm business. Is that something that the committee?
I have a personal question about it.
Okay, let's try it.
Not personal about you, or I have a constituent, so like a very specific question more than the bill, which is they think this person, that their neighbor is getting exempted from regulations because they're saying they're a farm, but to get these on-farm permits, you have to have half your income be from agriculture.
No.
What do you have to be to be considered a farm?
To be considered a farm?
Right, because then once you're a farm, you can have on-farm activities, right?
Yes, to be considered a farm, you need to be just engaging in farming practices.
So if I have a goat tied up to a barn, that's a farm.
So, and Ellen, I actually might not know this.
Ellen Jankowski, Office of Legislative Counsel. This question is for you because he's asking about the RAPs. So to be governed by the RAPs and considered a farm as regulated by the agency, there is a long list of things that you can do. It's not half your income, it's at least $2,000 a year.
Okay.
From things you have raised or grown, and then there's also.
Or donate.
What?
Or donate. Is that a change in this bill, the donation?
That would be the change in this bill. And if you want to.
Are the RAPs being amended to include donation?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you can.
That's not an Ellen question.
Okay, so the concern from this constituent is that there was a farm, a single family farm. Somebody bought the farm, changed it into a fantasy farm, and are now renting it out on Airbnb and having 20 guests and doing all sorts of things that are loud and not less neighborly than just the quiet farm that was at the end of this dirt road. And so they're saying, because they're saying they're a farm, and this is on-farm activity, there's nothing that can be done permanently.
Don't you just have to meet a minimum?
Okay, I'll take your question. So under both municipal zoning, we have a carve out for accessory on-farm business. So the municipalities that have zoning can't zone out a business as an accessory on-farm business, which may include farm stays. That is one of the qualifying categories.
Farm what?
Stays.
So you can say you're a farm because you donate $2,000 of hay. You're now, even though that's the only farming you do, or you have some lands and.
Well, there's a required number of either livestock that you have, or $2,000. So there is a possibility that would be $2,000 that would trigger it. But yes, you need to be a farm. That does exempt you from a number of things. It qualifies them then for accessory on-farm business at a municipal zoning level. And then also there is a corresponding Act 250 exemption. The exemption does not extend to farm stays currently.
That's not considered a non-farm.
It may or may not be. So the Act 250 district coordinator or enforcement office could potentially answer more specific questions.
And when these exemptions apply to all permits, not just the Act 250 permit, so like a wastewater permit? Thank you. So that gets to my constituents' concern, which is also Senator Watson's.
Indeed.
Okay. So I'll let you get halfway into section 1.
Okay. So, because I am, in the interest of time, skipping over the sections about the required agricultural practices rule. And, okay, so if the committee wants to hear more about changes to the eligibility of the accessory on-farm permit exemption, that would be Ellen, and I can switch spots with her.
No.
No, okay, okay.
Unless somebody pipes up that they want to ask them.
Okay, then I think we're good. Okay, and then the next 2 sections, perhaps I shouldn't have been the one to sit up here first, but the next 2 sections are section 5 and 6. And they change land use value appraisal eligibility, which could potentially affect revenue in the state. And if the committee wants to hear more about these sections, those are sections that Kirby drafted. I can switch seats with him.
And just the Senate Finance Amendment to remove those sections.
Yes, that's exactly right. And they voted.
They did amend it yesterday. Okay.
They took them out.
They took out section 5 and 6.
Wow. Which was about donated crops.
Yes, Kirby Keeler City Council, generally their concern was opening up current use eligibility in ways that they thought could be gained.
But it's still in there for the on-farm.
The donated language is used.
For the on-farm.
So the Ag Committee removed those yesterday?
Finance.
Finance.
Because, yeah, they thought it would be an impact on property taxes. So they would be enrolled in current use.
And, yeah, so indirectly decrease that funding or.
Okay. Any other questions about that, now that they're not there?
Natural Resources did a walkthrough of some of this language already, so.
Okay.
had it
At
in
some
preview.
point, somebody's got to take this on as an issue anyways.
And so there's a lot of other sections that don't really have anything to do with appropriations or money. Section 7 is about milk producers and fixing an error in the statute there. Section 8, you might be interested in, but it is, there's a farm to school program where the Agency of Agriculture makes grants makes grants for the purpose of helping Vermont schools develop a farm to school program. And this section will allow them to use contracts in addition to grants. Section 9 repeals pesticide compact. Section 10, minimal impact. It allows people to take pest control exam, certified license exam, as many times as they like. Those exams are for $30 each. $25 each. Sections 11 to 16 is about seed law, conforming our statute of seed law to national standards. There's some changes in the fees, and but we think about with how things are moved, there's not changes in the fees, they're just moved to different places, and so it should be revenue neutral. VITA is taking control of the Vermont Agricultural Credit Program, and they're so this is essentially renumbering and moving a statute for the Vermont Agricultural Credit Program to be under VITA in in 10 VSA chapter 12 to be kind of nestled under VITA in that area in the statute, so it's renumbering. There is one change to a program. I was conferring with our contact at VITA, section 22, page 33. This is a Vermont Jobs Fund, and this was supposed to be a conforming amendment to fix the cross-reference. Our VITA told me that there is this program that was in existence, monies from this Vermont, the fund, monies from a fund, the Jobs Fund, maybe loans to the Vermont Agricultural Credit Program to support its lending operations, and establish a line of credit not to exceed more than $100 million. And according to VITA, this program was not operational, and not an active program with the Vermont Agriculture Credit in the Vermont Agriculture Credit Program. So this is crossed out, but the Vermont Jobs Fund was not actually loaning the money into this program and wasn't active.
Okay.
And sections 24 and 25 are fees. So these fees are for large and medium farms. Large farms is 24, medium farms is 25. There is a $2,500 annual fee that large farms are required to pay to the secretary. That is being removed. And in section 25, there is a $1,500 fee required to be paid to the secretary on an annual basis. I conferred with Ted a little bit earlier today, and he can tell you more about this, but I believe that those funds would be replaced in general funds. That's about $230,000 in income.
Senator Bruce.
Just wondering, other than just eliminating fees is good for the people who are paying, what's the rationale that was put forward in committee?
I think it was to, I'm trying to think if what I'm about to say is anything more than what you just said, and I don't think it is. It's just to try to make it easier for farmers. And so the Agency of Agriculture might have more in-depth information about this, but I think the idea is just to truly make it easier for farmers to run their farming businesses and to not overwhelm them with these.
But the fees were going into the water quality special fund? So what's the effect of that?
I mean, the effect of this is, and Ted might be able to tell you more, but the effect of this would be that there's a request for these funds that come from the general fund, and how that would affect a program's operation, that might require some testimony from the agency.
Well, we can have Ted come up if you're done with the walkthrough.
There's a couple of, one more section about fees. And so there's sections 26 through 29 of this bill has to deal with transferring the authority of hemp processing or hemp growing, processing, and products from the Agency of Agriculture to the Cannabis Control Board. This section makes some changes to the number of the fees. In some ways, on page 45, we're at page 45 under subsection 858 fees. Under current law, those fees are $100 for growing and processors. $100 for growers and processors. This statute sets them at $50 for producers/growers. Those terms are interchangeable. Processors are $500, so it's an increase in fee. It's also establishing a fee to license a hemp-infused product if it has more than 0.4 milligrams of THC in it. It is removing fees from existing law that charge growers per acreage of fee within a fee per acreage of hemp that is grown. So there's a range. For less than 5 acres, it's $100 fees. For a half acre to 9.9 acres, it's $500. 10 to 50 acres, it's $1,000. And 50 acres or more, it's $3,000. And those would be fees that are being removed in the transferring of the authority from the agriculture to the Cannabis Control Board.
Okay.
And that is the end of my piece, and I will hand it over to Ted unless.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think just a question about that, just thinking about transferring hemp to the Cannabis Control Board. Presumably the rules that would be around the hemp market would be different than the rules for regular cannabis products. I'm thinking about like the advertising and there's no, I guess you could arguably get some dosage of THC from hemp, but I'm thinking about like the non-THC hemp products. Like it's okay to advertise rope.
Clothing.
Yes, clothing.
Furniture.
I'm thinking about the ability for them to make rules
Yeah,
distinctly, as a separate product.
I mean, there's nothing in this bill that would prevent them from making those rules.
Okay,
They
and
don't
they would have-
exist. Yeah.
But they would have the authority to do that if they, okay, as long as they have the
There's-
authority, great.
So do you know if the Cannabis Control Board testified in?
They did.
They did, and they're okay with it?
Oh, they're the ones who proposed this, yeah. In coordination.
They were okay with the transfer?
The Agency of Agriculture?
Yeah.
I believe so, yes.
Okay, we'll have Ted come up and go over the fiscal note. We sort of covered it with that overview. My main concern is with the fees, section 24 and 25.
Ted Barnett, Joint Fiscal Office. I see you all have printed copies, so I will provide, yes, Bradley walked through many of the fiscal provisions of the bill. I will provide some color commentary to certain pieces. Primarily, yes, I will start with the fees for large and medium farm operations, a little context within the FY27 governor's recommended budget. There was a provision that would provide $231,500 of general fund to the Agency of Agriculture in exchange for getting rid of those fees. So that was a proposal that came from the governor.
And then would that continue ad infinitum?
It would be a question in fiscal year 28 of how, if you all decided to adopt that as part of your budget contract as well, that proposal, yes, you would have to think in fiscal year 28 of how to fill that gap for the
governor's budget base transfer?
Let me see if it was a base or one time. Let me pull this up.
I'm just thinking we're going from not approving raises in fees to now just getting rid of fees and replacing them with general.
It is a base contract. So I'm sorry, you don't believe what I said about it being a fiscal year 28 problem. It would be forever solved.
231,500 going forward. So regardless if we had more or less farms, since we would no longer be connected to a fee, it would just be part of the government.
It would just be part of the base, yeah. Yep.
Okay, well, that's a question that I have for Ledge Council, because I didn't ask anybody to do an amendment, because we didn't think there was any other.
And then, sorry, another question. The growers' fees for cannabis, are they affected by this provision?
Not to mind, it's.
This provision mean the fees?
The waiving the
The
fees?
fees are only for large and medium farm operators.
Yeah, and it's
I'm just wondering, could somebody have a medium-sized cannabis?
I always think the large farm operator's definition is about animals.
Cannabis is not
It's
agricultural.
LFO, okay, yeah, it is, about number of animals.
Right, Russ was trying to change
But
it.
it's also about having those fees going into the water quality fund is to help protect the environment from.
But does the money go into the Agency of Ag and they put it into the water quality fund, or is it just the Agency of Ag?
It doesn't specify in the line I see in, I'd have to follow up. I would imagine that it would go into the agricultural water quality special fund, but yeah, let me just double check rather than misstating things.
Councilor Showman, would you be able to draft an amendment that strikes this section?
Both sections? Yeah, I could.
Because this basically is the same as an appropriation of 231 that we would normally strike, so.
And I'm
We
just
might agree
wondering, if large farms can't afford the fee, can anybody afford the fee? It would seem like if anybody could pay it, it would be a large farm, but it just seems like I don't know, somewhat unfair to get rid of those fees when everybody else is paying the fees,
Oh, we
including.
have
cannabis
stormwater fees.
Right.
Yeah, this is the same, this is comparable with that.
Yeah.
I'd be happy.
We could get rid of some D&D fees and then have the general fund pay D&D.
Oh, there's an idea.
Okay, so that's the main impact of the
Or we could keep
Of
the
the general
fees
fund.
and have the general fund, yes. We need it all.
Yes, and two other, like, to kind of put a final or a little extra comment on the, water quality fees. There is, you'll see from the House, one of their bills, I'm forgetting which one right now, kicks out some of the deadlines for when, A&R, right? There's a question of whether stormwater is, happening within the confines of a farm or being discharged. And so you'll see more policy around water quality and how it relates to agriculture and farms and the jurisdiction between agriculture and Agency of Natural
I
Resources.
shouldn't ask, but could somebody provide us a list of who's eligible for the grants out of the special fund?
What special fund?
Water quality,
The water quality special fund.
Oh, okay.
farms get.
And the additional, if I may, the other pieces around the hemp fees and regulation and the transition of that, and kind of the estimate and revenue that's in the fiscal note. The Agency of Agriculture has not been collecting hemp fees because hemp producers were being regulated federally. Folks were registering with the USDA. And with federal changes to make hemp a schedule treated the same as cannabis, this was part of the impetus for moving to this control board. Depending on whether hemp is treated as a Schedule 1, so our estimate of minimal fee revenue through, particularly related to the product fees, we would imagine, and this is talking with the control board, so I'm trying to channel them a bit. There would be a limited number of products if it was a strictly limited to Vermont market. If for whatever reason there was a federal change and hemp was, there was interstate commerce for hemp allowed, there are, as far as I understand, thousands of products. Chair Pepper noted that there's Snoop Dogg has a hemp product, Cheech and Chong has a product, so there could be thousands of hemp products that would be registered in Vermont. And there would be more, we're imagining $90,000 in annual revenue as opposed to minimal revenue that goes to the cannabis regulation fund. Whether that's sufficient to regulate the new hemp market, I can't comment on that. I would defer to the control board, but that just wanted to provide that additional information for y'all.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? And does the committee have any comments about removing the sections 25, 24 that remove the fees?
Good idea.
Okay.
I got a question.
Yes.
Are we just voting on to remove it pending appropriations for that, or you just want to remove that entirely?
We would, well, we could, depends on how the amendment is drafted, but yeah, we could say pending the appropriation.
I don't mind stripping that out. I mean, I realize we're talking about the clean water fund here, whatever else, but there's a lot of farms in Franklin County that at $15 a hundred right now, they're struggling. Just trying to give them a break here as far as this is concerned. If the governor's proposing to put 232,000 in the general fund at a baseline, then you're still not going to lose your money from the clean water fund.
Right, but it's gonna displace something else to the tune of.
Somebody else will be paying for
So
the
it's coming out of the general
water
fund.
quality.
We do that all the time. Yep, you're right.
I know, we're all paying
Yeah.
for it.
And that it's a base appropriation. Like
I think we
I
should,
just,
if we treat this like everything else,
Yeah.
strip the money
Take
out.
the money.
yeah,
Contingent.
yeah, I just don't like that it's piecemeal. It's like, we're requiring fees of everybody across the board to fund operations, and then to just pop out a couple of classes of farms and say, you guys magically don't have to pay a fee. I just think it leads to an expansion of that at the expense of the general fund. So.
Well, I can agree with Senator Westland on just stripping the fees out right now, contingent upon the funding.
Okay, when would we be able to see an amendment?
Hour.
Huh?
Is an hour okay?
Yeah, we're hoping to be gone by then. So.
You're hoping to be gone by then.
Oh,
Well,
really?
I can tell about 30 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
30 minutes, okay.
So we can maybe, because I think libraries might take us that long. So like whenever we're done with the library bill, I can take that up. Oh, we have 328. So it might be that. It might take us an hour, but hopefully it'll take us half an hour. 45 minutes. And you could send it to L or. Okay, thank you, Tim. So that's what we'll do on 323. If library people are out there, we'll invite them in.
Wow, sounds like a crew out there.
Rowdy.
Okay, we'll go on mute. Ready to go back? We're
Have
back.
you already walked through the bill itself?
We have not walked through the bill.
Oh.
And we don't have list
I think
counselors,
they
so
told you about
you
it.
could give us a walkthrough.
I,
But
sure.
we're doing a lot of bills today, so we're not
Okay.
getting into the details. We're trying to focus
Perfect.
on, and I think there is,
I can't see.
did we have a fiscal note on this one? I don't
Yep,
know.
we do.
Okay. Just tell me when you're good to go.
Okay, we are ready to go. We're live. This is 232. We just did 323. It's our palindrome bill number
Ooh,
day.
awesome. The senator to my right wants that.
It's true. I said yes.
It's like totally your jazz.
This makes me very happy.
So yeah, there's a fiscal note.
Do you want me to start?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I just didn't
You
want-
could introduce yourself.
Okay, hi, everyone. I'm Senator Ruth Hardy from the Addison District, also known as the Library Senator. And this is a bill about libraries. I can do a quick walkthrough of the bill. The first part, and this is S-232. It started in the Senate Ed Committee and it's been through Finance. The first part is findings. I won't go through all of those, but they're findings about why libraries are super awesome. So there's that. And then the second part, section of the bill creates a Vermont Libraries Day, the third October in the month, the third Monday in the month of October to celebrate libraries. The section 3 is the part of the bill where I will have an amendment, the bulk of an amendment. And there is a fund that you're probably aware of, the Universal After School and Summer Special Fund. I know this fund has been a source of a lot of conversation, but it creates grants for summer and after school programs. And as you probably know, libraries do a lot of summer and after school programming. They have summer reading programs. They have after school, lots of different kinds of after school programs. And they've tried to apply for this funding, but they've never been successful, in large part from what I've heard, because the process is a little not easy. And many of our libraries in our towns are really small operations and don't have staff, or they have part-time staff or volunteers. And so they have not been successful at getting any funding through that fund. And so the bill, as it comes to you and as it left education, would say that 5% of that funding would go to the Department of Libraries to distribute to after school and summer programs at local libraries. So that's how the Senate Education Committee basically how they determined it, just to make sure that libraries got some
Can I have a
funding.
clarification?
Yep.
We shouldn't have let Ted leave because he was in here right before we started. So on his fiscal note, he says, today no libraries have applied for funding through the program, but maybe he meant have been granted funding. Oh wait, do you know you're saying that libraries have applied?
My understanding is that they have been too overwhelmed by the process.
Okay,
And so, but I'm not on the Senate Education Committee, so I didn't hear all the
Right,
testimony.
but I thought you
that
had your own libraries in your district.
I don't know specifically, I know they've never gotten any, and my impression is that it's been too much for them.
Okay.
But I don't actually know.
Okay,
I don't wanna say something that's wrong.
okay, I thought you said that they had applied. But maybe
I thought they had tried to apply, maybe it's just they started to, and I think the application is quite lengthy. And they just were like, this is not worth it, and, you know, some of them are gonna be applying for like, you know, $1,200 or something, and it's a 20-page application or something. That's my understanding of it.
Okay.
And I'm here explaining this to you because of the amendment.
Right, yeah.
The Senator Weeks is the reporter of the bill, so he may have more information on that particular point. But, so this would be it's the 95-5 split. That's how the bill has come to you. We passed it in finance while I was working on the amendment with Senator Kirchlich and Senator Bongartz, just so we could keep the bill moving and wouldn't miss the deadlines. So that's that section. It also, there's an advisory committee that advises the Secretary of Education on the use of this funding and these after-school programs. And this would add the state librarian to that advisory committee. And then the rest of the bill, there's also an early education grant program, or there's an early education program in the Agency of Education. And this would just add as a part of that program, including training for public library staff. And then the duties of the Department of Libraries has changed slightly to modify the definition of collection. Right now, collection is meant to be, is defined as books, like physical books, and this would change it so it's digital or physical collection, because there are a lot of digital things and that hasn't been updated, and that makes a difference particularly for federal funds, to the extent that federal funds exist anymore. And then, so that's just changing that throughout the statutes. And then there is clarification under the language about library trustees that allows, there are two different kinds of libraries. There are municipal libraries and publicly chartered libraries, which are often nonprofit organizations. And this just makes it clear that both types of libraries can be part of the bonding programs, as long as it's supported by the municipality. It also repeals an old fund, the audiovisual revolving fund, that no longer actually is necessary. It used to be funds to help like mail VHS tapes to people around the state. And we don't do that anymore, so they're just deleting that. Effective on July 1st. That's the quick overview. And then I have an amendment, which is why I'm here.
Right, you're doing triple duty. You're doing fiscal, edge council, and bill sponsor. So for the committee's sake, I had talked with Senator Hardy and Senator Bongartz about things in the bill. So we're trying to work on a joint amendment that the committee could also consider. Do you want to walk through?
Sure.
Because maybe you could walk through the amendment as you had it drafted, and then if the Agency of Education has any information, we could ask AOE to talk about it.
Yeah, so as I mentioned to you, the agency was not excited about the 95-5 split. They didn't want to have a specific allocation to the Department of Libraries. I don't want to speak for them for sure. I don't want to speak for the Agency of Education, but I think some of the issues where they thought it could set a bad precedent, and they didn't like the not flexibility of it. So that was a really bottom line for them, is they wanted to get rid of that. And I have communicated a little bit with the chair of the advisory committee, who's actually Kendall Smith, who's the Commissioner of Labor,
She moved over there.
Oh my gosh, I didn't even notice she was sitting here. Hi.
And I think Senator Pershlick has communicated with the department a little, or the agency a little bit. But so, and just so you know, I did bring this amendment to education about an hour ago, and so I can tell you, they tasked me with telling you what they thought. The first part of this amendment, which I think is on your website, I don't have
No, I was just trying to
physical
find.
copies of it. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't know. Did you have a copy? It's also posted on the education committee website.
Chance that you.
I'm sorry.
Absolutely, let me show you this. What are you looking for?
It's a amendment.
It's on the-
232.
It's an amendment to
232.
232. It should be on the Senate Education Committee website. I'm sorry, this all happened really fast and it's been a nutty day. The first part of the amendment just adds a finding. So that's really just a finding that public libraries have provided diverse after-school and summer programs and literacy opportunities to all children free of charge. These programs often include literacy, arts, technology, or science education, nutritious meals, and creative recreation activities, just laying it out there. Then in the second part of the amendment, amends section 3 of the bill, which is the part about the 95.5. And so it's a strike all to that section. So it eliminates the 95.5. So you won't see that in here, but it's just not there because it's a strike all. It just, it changes some, under current law, it says to establish a grant program that supports the expansion of universal after school and summer programs. And this would change it to supports sustaining or expanding. So it could be you're just supporting a program in a library that's been there for a while, or a school or a nonprofit that's been there for a while. It doesn't have to be an expansion of something. It could be a sustaining of something. And then makes clear that the funding under current law says eligible recipients can be public, private, or nonprofit organizations, and just adds language including public libraries, schools, and volunteer mentoring programs. The volunteer mentoring program addition was at the suggestion of the chair, your chair, that guy, because he's heard similar, I don't want to speak for you, but kind of similar issues with these organizations as libraries, that they've had a hard time accessing these funds. The agency may allocate a portion of the funds to the Department of Libraries for the purpose of providing sub-grants to public libraries to sustain or create summer and after-school programming. So kind of getting the concept of they could allocate a chunk of money to the Department of Libraries if they could sub-grant to littler libraries. And a coalition or group of public libraries may also apply for a grant from the agency or department. So like all the libraries in Franklin County could get together and say, we want to apply together and have a county grant for their summer after school programming. So that is that. This part, the next section, there's an administration funding. There's $500,000 of this fund that is set aside for administering the grants. That's about, depending on how much cannabis money that it varies in a percentage. But the amendment would change that to $250,000 instead of $500,000. This is something that you all should talk about because you're the Appropriations Committee. But that was just a suggestion because one of the issues that I heard in talking to the agency and the committee was, they were concerned about the level of money that's available, and if we expand it into libraries, thank you very much. Is that you? Perfect. Then they were concerned, but it's in this amendment, but it's really up to y'all about that one. Then the agency shall create a simple application and reporting process that reduces barriers to grant program participation for small community-based organizations such as rural libraries, volunteer mentoring programs, and similar organizations. That was to address the issue that this is kind of a hard grant program to apply to. And then further on down, it retains the state librarian on that advisory committee, which is in the original bill and also the bill as it came to you. And then annually, the advisory committee shall solicit public input on the grant program and procedures established pursuant to this section. The advisory committee shall hold a meeting to discuss the public input and any plans to implement recommended changes to the grant program. So basically getting at that there's going to be some public feedback for how it works. And this is similar to language that actually the commissioner had suggested. So that's the amendment.
Okay.
And now I just want to report to you what the education committee tasked me with telling you all, because I was just down there, and first there was a question about what volunteer mentoring programs, if there was a definition or if we could kind of tighten that up a little bit, and I suggested that I would let you know that. I mean, I think there was some concern about, presumably they would have to go through an application process and be determined that they're a legitimate thing, but that was a question. The education committee was fully supportive of the $250,000 cut to the administration, but they also acknowledged that that's an appropriation thing. However, they also were very much in the agency may allocate a portion of the funds to the Department of Libraries. They were strongly in favor of making the may a shall. If you would like to hear more about that the strength of their feelings about it, I would suggest talking to Senator Weeks. He had some things to say about it, but they were all unanimous in wanting that may to be a shall, and they were in favor of the $250,000 reduction. But I told them I would relay that to you. I stand by the amendment. I was trying to come to some compromise. I think that we all, Senator Perchlik and Bongartz and I would like to see the bill move forward. Hopefully everybody does. So that's that.
Senator Brew.
So I'll just start by saying I support this. I think there's great need. I'm a little confused by the process. This doesn't seem like an amendment that necessarily we should be putting out. It seems like it would be either the education committee would approve it or not, either in their own name or review on the floor.
Yeah.
So that's one thing. I just want to make sure that I understand what we're talking about. So we're no longer changing the split.
Yep.
So it's 100% of the excise tax that's being reserved is going to after-school programs, but without an explicit carve-out.
Correct.
Okay, so that remains status quo.
Correct. There's just the may language that they may allocate.
In the amendment, not in the.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then the other things that we're doing are relatively small-scale changes to the existing program. It's just making it easier for libraries, allowing them to apply, et cetera. So we're not setting up a new structure or a new fund.
No.
And we're also not changing the split.
Correct.
Okay. Great.
Yeah. And I mean, I know the process has been a little funky. I'm not sure that I'm fine with whatever process. I just wanted to, and the bill is here, so that's why I'm here.
Senator Lang.
No, I think your intentions are good and
Trying.
Understood. And it's interesting because I have been talking with our chief prevention officer and others about getting our arms around the cannabis fund. It's a huge amount of money and how it might be used going forward. So to me, this is it redefined a little bit, and I know I'm looking at Kendall over there for the after-school program, but so I'm wondering if this is more than what the Appropriations Committee ordinarily does, though you've made it sound like it's not, so.
Well, I mean, I will say, part of the strong feelings down in education was that they were like, this is, even on the money part of it, they were like, this is education stuff. The education committee should get to decide. So I'm happy to have them do the amendment. I don't know. I
think you've done it. You're categorically picking out that 5% at this point doesn't make sense. I think the negotiation discussion that's happened is a good one.
And the process is, which I'll explain later. You have to, I'm involved in it. So you have to trust the chair part of it. It's all my fault.
I know.
So, Senator Westbrook.
Well, I don't know whether, who's this, if it's an amendment coming to the floor, how we've stripped money out of everybody's bill.
Yeah.
And we do that in conjunction of when you get to the end product. I have no idea what AOE is spending now to administer this, and whether 250 makes sense or not in relation to that. So
That's a good segue. Because I'm hoping that folks from the Agency of Education that are here will answer that question.
well, I would say to you, I'm not in favor of, in isolation, letting a $250,000 appropriation when every committee that sent us a bill, we stripped their money out.
Yeah.
The weird thing in
More
this is
quality
it's not
food.
actually an appropriation, it's just it's actually a carve out from the grant money that, so
Well-
you would not even see this, I think, unless, except for that it's in
Yeah,
this
it's
bill.
it's not a new appropriation.
Yeah,
They're just,
But it's not,
But I think if I'm understanding right, your idea is that all the decisions
All
should
of
be
the-
made at once.
yes,
well, and they are.
there are
When
lots
we
of
do
people
that.
that would like cannabis money for all sorts of reasons. And
Well, let me have AOE do some explaining. I think it'll be more clear later. So you're done? You're.
I mean, unless you have more questions, I just wanna know what I'm supposed to do with it, but I'll stick around and listen.
Yeah, you can
so.
stick around or not. Does somebody from Agency of Education want to talk about the expenditures on the program, the administrative expenditures? It's up to you. You can all three come up, or two of you, or. So the main thing I wanted to, there's this proposal to cut the spending from the authority to spend up to 500,000 to 250,000. So we wanted to hear how much you are spending on the program.
Yeah, so I'm Sean Kusno, the Deputy CFO at the Agency of Education. Happy to be here. I'll just get right to the numbers. Last year, we spent $117,994 on the admin portion, and that was made up mainly of the two positions that were given us for this program in the initial bill, Act 78 of 2023. So we hired those two positions in 2025, so that's a kind of a partial cost. We also charged typical operating costs for those positions. This year, we're estimating spending $364,500, and that's again those two positions. Plus, we're paying for a portion of the after-school director position, which is Johannes. And then we've also been approved for two more positions from the pool. One for the financial monitoring of the money out in the field. And that one, we're in the hiring process for that. We hope to fill it in a couple of months. We're unable to fill the other, which would be another program position because of the cap being currently 500,000. And our budget request was for 505,000. And that's again, those four positions that we talked about and the operating costs for those. And it's a little more than the 500,000 because I think there was a request to change the flat $500,000 amount to a percentage, which I think went through as 5% based on the estimated receipts expected next year. At the time of the budget, we were told 10,100,000 for the fund.
Right. That's about what the excise raises every year, right?
Yeah.
Yes, Senator.
So again, slight confusion about the cut from 500 to 250 was in the bill and the amendment?
No, just in the proposed amendment. So here's more,
And I'm wondering what the thinking was. I don't know who proposed it, but what the thinking was, because it sounds like you're at 500,000 in spending.
Right, where we're at, yeah.
So I'm not sure what the genesis of that was.
right, well, here's the more information. So when I saw the bill with the 5% carve out, I thought that was something that appropriations should support because it's appropriating that money, you know, without the kind of legislative 5% will go, and that the appropriations committee would be interested in that. And I talked to the sponsor of the bill and to the head of chair of education where the bill went through, where they had made other change, they made that, you know, were supportive of that carve out for libraries. So I said I didn't support that and wanted to make an amendment to take that out. So we was working with the chair of education and the sponsor of the bill on an amendment that we could do in Senate appropriations that we could agree with and that they could agree with. As just doing it all at once instead of doing it, doing one in finance, one in education, and one in appropriations. That amendment, we were agreeing on parts. The part that I didn't agree on was the 500,000, was the reduction from 500,000 to 250,000 without any information or testimony. So I had some communication with the agency of education saying like, well, no, they are spending or going to be spending the full $500,000. That's in the governor's budget, and it is around 5%, which seemed to be, to me, a reasonable admin percentage-wise of the total appropriation of the program. So they were willing to come in and provide evidence of that.
So now the $250,000 cut is out of the amendment.
So I have a proposed amendment. So this all happened a lot fast. So Senator Hardy and I didn't have a lot of time to like orchestrate this or anything. So I have an amendment for the committee to consider that's basically identical to what Senator Hardy and basically the education committee wanted, minus the cut to the 500,000.
Okay, so the cut to 500, from 500 to 250 is gone. The 95-5 split is gone. And the only thing we're left with is some language about eligibility and a simple form for libraries to use.
So, are we actually appropriating any money here? Or
So
are
now
we
we don't
just,
have any.
No.
so we're just giving AOE the blessing to go ahead and just shall give the.
Right, they would have their existing legislative authority to spend money on the program as they have in the past. They would just carry forward. If we wanted to, we could look at that in the budget about changing it, but I didn't want to propose it in this.
So the
amendment.
500's out.
500 is.
Everything with money is out.
Right, but the 500 never was kind of really in, because it's just underlying statute that allows the Agency of Education to spend up to $500,000 administrating the programs.
That would basically treat them like you would treat anybody else.
Yeah,
So now, my question is, what is S-232? Because we don't have the bill on our page.
we do.
That's the
I
amendment.
don't see it.
232 is the library bill.
Yep, I know. I see fiscal note, but I don't see 232. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, it's a list of.
Take it back.
Yeah,
Take it back.
yeah.
Good
Yeah,
job.
so what
Okay.
I'm,
So this amends this bill. So you've taken, let me ask this question. You've taken out the money from this bill, but you've also amended the bill with Senator Hardy's recommendation.
and the education.
And the Education
on
Committee
Education.
has agreed to that proposed amendment.
Yeah, so these other small changes like
Trying
the
to make sure we
finding,
have a pathway.
making it, specific that public libraries are eligible.
Yeah.
They use the word volunteer mentoring program. I meant like, we could maybe change that, like part of the Mentoring Vermont program.
Yeah.
But I think we can deal with that.
So did you, on page 2, Andy, did you change, on page 2, line 4, did you change it back to may, where it says the agency may allocate, or is that gonna be a shall now? Or?
No, this is still may, because this is like, I think in the original bill, there was some shall language. This is changing it to a may. And there's this part about the 5% cutout isn't, as Senator Hardy mentioned, it's not in here because that whole section is deleted.
But
Senator Brennan.
Senator Hardy was talking about the Education Committee feeling strongly about the word shall, but I'm assuming that's on line 10 in section E, where they shall create a simple application. Is that the shall she was talking about?
Well, we could ask her.
No?
I think but they do feel strongly about that shall as well.
They feel strongly about that shall. The shall that they want in that's not in is on line 2.
Yeah.
On page 2. They'd rather have that may be a shall.
On line 2 or
Line 4.
Line 1?
Line
Oh, I have a different.
Line 4, got
No.
it.
The one I
Agency
just-
shall
the one I just asked
allocate
about,
a
yeah.
portion of the
It's line
funds
4 in your
annually.
version, yes,
Yeah.
line 4. That's the one they would prefer to have as a shall. They felt very strongly about that. I would just say that the reason this cannot be an education committee amendment is this is not what they want. They want the bill as it came to you.
Right.
The chair and your chair and I worked on this compromise to get the bill to move forward because it seemed like your chair may not want it to move forward with the 95% thing in it.
Okay, here's my problem.
Yeah.
My problem is, so as the chair of natural resources will tell you, we spend a lot of time trying to avoid fights between committees and chairs. And if that committee wants a version of this that's different from ours, I don't understand. What we're putting out has no money in it. And we're the Appropriations Committee. So I don't understand why.
We're taking out the 95%.
Understood, but it's basically non-monetary language that we would be proposing on the floor. So I guess what I don't understand is why this doesn't go through the normal process. So we pull out the money stuff, and then these changes come in an amendment from somebody who's, in this case, not on the Education Committee, goes to the floor. That way we're not fighting with the Education Committee about an education bill that doesn't ultimately include money. Seems to me it should come from the sponsoring senator. It should go through there. They vote on it. They report their vote. We can all weigh in on the floor, but as the Appropriations Committee, it's odd that we would get into a fight with them.
Well, I don't consider it a fight.
Okay.
Since I was working with chair of that committee.
Right, but as I understood what the senator was saying, the committee a majority of the committee doesn't want this version. Is that right?
I would say that the majority of the committee is fine with this version. They would prefer that may to be a shall. I'm feeling a little uncomfortable because I don't know exactly how to report what they said, but that was what I gleaned from them was that they are okay with this because they want the bill to go forward. They prefer the may to be a shall. I'm happy to do this as a floor amendment with the 2 chairs too, if that's better.
And my goal was to make it smoother. Obviously that failed at that goal. My goal is so there's controversy about the carve out of the 5%. So go to people so let's make a deal on, take out the 5%, what would you need in exchange, basically? So that was the discussion. So we could have done it on the floor where Appropriations just took out the 5% and then let them deal with it on the floor. I thought, why have that fight on the floor if we could make a deal in Appropriations?
And I am totally fine with this. I think it's great compromise. It was the senator saying that they don't want this. That leads me to believe that there is
what I thought I heard you suggest was that this should be the Senate Education Committee doing this amendment.
And that, so what
I mean, they-
I
they
was
pay-
trying to say was that they wouldn't do this amendment because they want the bill as it passed.
So is
but
it
that-
fair to say they're okay with this? even though
Yes,
it's-
I think it's fair to
Okay.
say that, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
It's a confusing situation.
I think,
so-
Okay,
I mean, it was, because it was a compromise.
yeah,
Yeah,
and as long as that's the case, I'm fine personally voting it out of here, and I support what's in here. It might be potentially confusing for people on the floor.
you think?
We'll make it clear on the floor. Yes, Senator Walker.
Well, thank you. If this is the path, then that is fine. I guess because I was having a hard time wrapping my head around, that same thing, right? That we would put out an amendment that had content, significant policy content in it. And if it is, agreed with the committee, then that's one thing. Because otherwise, I would say it ought to be a floor amendment. And we, as the Appropriations Committee, grateful to see it ahead of time, ought to have an amendment ready to go for that potential amendment if there is still money in it, or a potential amendment if this amendment, let's say, failed for some reason. Like just being prepared for both contingencies. But again, if this is the path and everybody is okay with it, then that's fine. I guess I would say my preference is for it to be a floor amendment, and then just be prepared to amend that.
If it's a floor amendment, the policy committee will review the amendment and they will vote and make a recommendation. If we send it out of here, the education committee doesn't make a recommendation. And I would rather the education committee make a recommendation. The place that whether it's 500, 250, in that to me really becomes an appropriation. And that this committee, I think, given the way we've treated every other committee and every other bill that has come through here, need to make sure that that's out. And it becomes a little awkward when it's a floor amendment for us to take that out, but we should treat that as an appropriation like we treat every other appropriation.
That's why I asked the question about what is 232. So now 232 we take the money out, that's our usual practice. This is a legitimate proposal that apparently education supports, and it does make it cleaner. Even though it sounds unclean to have an amendment on the floor, it's a cleaner process for us in here. And it will also allow for the Ed committee to weigh in, and they can say we want shall instead of may.
Right. Senator Norris?
Yes, in my other committee, we let words like may and shall have big meetings. So I just need clarity on this. When the may versus the shall, did you say that AOE wanted the shall or the education committee wanted the shall?
The education committee wanted the shall,
'Cause
because they wanted the ability, they wanted to be sure that libraries would get a portion of this fund. And if it's a may, they were concerned that they might not, because may, as you know, means they don't have to. The
Yeah.
agency could say, no, we don't.
Because I can't see the agency lining up to push for a shall in this particular.
No, I'm sure the agency wouldn't want a shall. I mean,
So that's the clarity I needed, yes.
the intention of the three of us was just to try to get this as smooth as possible. It may get even bumpier if we try to do a floor amendment, but I tried to text Senator Bongars to see if he could come down, but they're in the middle of stuff down there, so. But I'm happy to do whatever the committee wants.
Okay, well, I will entertain this motion for help, so we can move this bill out with this language as in this draft number 1.2.
I will second that motion on the, now my understanding of what it is, but I do second the senator from Lamoille's point that the cannabis money being cut here means it will go elsewhere, and I think we're going to need more discussion ultimately about that.
But we are doing it. If we
Yeah.
pass this, we are saying, well, it says may in it, so that's a good thing.
Yeah.
But having the shall in there, some concerns,
So this
just
is
based on
the,
who's applying and how and for what.
any questions on this?
One last question.
Mm.
If we move this successfully, will there be a floor amendment to change the may to a shall?
I don't know.
Because if there
I
is, then I
assumed
think
there-
the whole thing should be,
I assumed there wouldn't be, but
okay.
the committee might have a different view than the chair.
Good.
Yeah, I can't make any guarantees on the committee, but I don't think they would do that.
Okay.
Sure.
Because otherwise, I mean, if they are going to do that, then this whole thing should just come from them.
Right.
But, I'm willing to, believe that the future will be a smoother rather than a rougher ride.
Okay. Senator Brennan, do you have a question?
Well, I was just gonna ask if, was there a straw poll on the amendment
Yeah, the straw poll,
or on
was
the May shall?
there was a straw poll on the whole amendment. They all supported it, and they wanted me to relay that their preference is that the may be a shall.
Okay.
So that was the message I was supposed to deliver, and so that's what I've delivered to you. And my impression was that they were not gonna offer another amendment on the floor, but I can't guarantee what anybody else is gonna do.
So we're passing the
I'm
amendment as
trying
May.
here.
Well, we're gonna vote on it.
We're gonna vote on it
You
as
could
May.
vote yes or no on it.
As
Yes,
May.
as is written in
Okay, thank you.
draft 1.2,
I
where's
would
May?
say, I
This is
don't
so
want to
easy.
vote no on this because I want to see this go ahead. But I would like reported on the floor with some, is that the education committee said that they were in favor of this, and it doesn't feel like they got cut out of the process.
Our reporter could do that.
Hopefully the chair of education will stand up and say that they were part of the negotiation on what the language is.
And that's all good with me. That's fine, but I continue to be concerned about the process. And so when we have a proposal in our committee and someone comes in with an amendment, we let the amendment come forward and we vote straw poll, yes or no. And then come what may, it goes up on the floor. Having a process where so I understand we are not cutting out the education committee, but it is a different process and a different set of testimony. We haven't heard from half the people who would weigh in on this because we are affecting the fund. We're changing the way the fund is organized. And when it was originally put in place, there was a strong, we worked very hard first to get the money. Got money, but secondly, to make sure that it was being used for prevention purposes. And so as long as the intent of the fund isn't being spoiled, which it shouldn't be, we can go ahead with it. I'm resistant to the word shall simply because then you can be providing money for things that don't relate to the fund itself and the intent of the fund. So I don't like the process. That's what I'm saying, but I can't argue against the.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's gonna argue the process.
Again, I can always argue the process, but I can't, this is our after-school fund. We've had it in place, and I think it's a good decision to include libraries.
Okay.
I second all of that.
I got to it eventually.
Clerk shall call the roll.
Beautiful. Senator Baruth.
Yes.
Senator Brennan, yes. Senator Lyons.
Yes.
Senator Norris.
Yes.
Senator Watson.
Yes.
Senator Westman.
Yes.
Senator Perchlik.
Yes.
How about a reporter?
I will report it.
Thank you, guys. Sorry for the confusion, but really it's Andy's fault.
Yeah.
It was clear as mud.
Okay, sorry to have you come in and not get a chance to talk. We just don't have the time. So we're now going to move to 328. housing and common interest communities.
Oh, yes.
Cameron. Yes, please.
We get that money yet?
Who else wants it?
328, so we have a fiscal note. Did we print out the fiscal note? I thought we did. No, that was there earlier.
Yeah, it's online. Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of a longer one, so maybe it's good. I still have a draft on the page 2 of the fiscal note. Is that the way it is? But page 1 doesn't have draft.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Good afternoon. For the record, Cameron Wood, Office of Legislative Counsel. Mr. Chair, would you like to do a walkthrough? I know you heard from the reporter and the chair of the Senate Economic Development Committee, I believe, earlier this week.
I think only
Tuesday.
Only the high notes, the financial
Okay.
sections. So the title of the bill, the first question, is this housing and common interest communities?
Yes, sir.
But in my quick read through it, I didn't see the parts that dealt with the common interest communities.
Right. So the bill as it initially came out of the committee had multiple sections dealing with common interest communities. That's the formal title of them. They're governed by homeowners associations, so you may all just refer to them as HOAs, but in statute, common interest communities. There were multiple sections dealing with prohibitions on leasing within common interest communities, requiring individuals to be able to run a family child care home out of a common interest community. There was a section about accessory dwelling units, and then another full section on the installation of electric vehicle supply equipment. So there were multiple sections addressing common interest communities. Ultimately, those were all struck in place. In section 4, there's a report from our office November of this year outlining the legal issues associated with including each of those provisions. There's a lot of tangled web of legal issues when you're dealing with common interest communities, in particular with some of those issues that were in the bill, like leasing. There are certain underwriting and financial mortgage related requirements regarding leasing of units. And there was a lot of legal questions that were brought up there. There were some legal questions brought up about how to apply them retroactively to
we don't need to go into it.
So they pulled that out and there's a report. There was a question from the committee itself about whether that title was appropriate. And I said, the bill currently has those sections in it. You're recommending the amendment, so it wouldn't really be appropriate to change the title of the bill at this point unless those provisions are agreed to by the body. And I'm going to reach out to the Secretary's office and find out what would their recommended process of amending the title. Okay. So I do have an amendment that I drafted up for your request from when the reporter walked through the bill. And so if it would be helpful, I could just focus on those sections.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's a draft amendment from the committee. It's just a draft 1.1. I just zoomed in and lost everything. Not quite sure how or why. And it's really just striking out all of the sections that have a form of money or appropriation. So first instance of amendment is striking out section 2 in its entirety and inserting a deleted section. What is section 2? Pardon me, I'm going to skip back to the bill. Section 2 is related to tax credits for the Vermont Housing Finance Agency. As you all know, there's multiple different programs through VHFA where they raise money through tax credits and then are able to use that money to help in different housing programs that they have. Down payment assistance program, which is what's addressed here. They also have the first generation homebuyer program, among others. What this section does in the bill as it came out of the committee for these down payment assistance program here in sub H, currently the VHFA has the authority in the sub 2 to issue tax credits up to $250,000 per year through fiscal year 26. So the bill on the top of page 4 would extend those tax credits for another 5 years through 2031, but increase the annual authorization to $350,000. And so that section has been removed in its entirety in the amendment here. And then the second instance of amendments is in section 6, 3 VSA 3098, by striking out a particular subsection. Section 6 creates an advisory council within DALE, the Department of Disabilities, Aging, and Independent Living. And the advisory council is a continuation of a working group or study group that was created last year and met over the summer, trying to come up with a state plan for the development of housing for individuals with developmental disabilities. And so what this language is intended to do is kind of take that working group and make it permanent, put it within the Agency of Human Services, and have it continue to do additional work and report back annually on these items here in the sub D. So administrative and program reforms carried out to better align service supported and housing development programs and policies, housing needs assessment for individuals served by the developmental disabilities service system of care, activities undertaken pursuant to the section, recommendations for future legislative action, including recommendations on changing obstacles to create housing for these individuals. So that section has has per diems for individuals who are not otherwise compensated. And because this would be a permanent council, it would be per diems for every year going into the future. And so the second instance of amendment just strikes that subsection related to per diems, but doesn't make any other changes. The third instance of amendment and the fourth instance of amendment are simply striking the sections of the bill at the bottom, which have positions and then appropriations. There were 3 positions for the Department of Housing and Community Development in the bill, and then there was, I believe it is $250,000 for municipal and regional planning resilience funds to provide planning grants for municipalities looking to meet their housing targets. And then a recommendation of $5 million into DHCD's base budget for the VHIP program. And so those final 2 instances of amendment are just striking those sections in the entirety.
Here,
that's the amendment.
Yes, underline.
Is there any other, are there any other funds in the VHIP program? Just the total amount?
My understanding is they request funds every year or have the past few years. It is in some sense, could be a revolving fund. They could be issuing out grants instead of loans, but the loans that they do issue out can be forgiven. You all as a body added some language last year to allow them any funds that come back to them for the VHIP program to then reinvest back out through the program. But my understanding is I think they typically the administration comes in and asks for a set amount every year to fund through. My understanding, I believe it was $3 million this year.
No, it's $4 million in the governor's budget for them this year.
And this is on top of that.
$1 million.
This is one of those,
Yeah.
it's one of the 2 that is on top of the governor's budget.
This
No,
would,
This is not, it's
not?
just increasing the governor's budget by.
from 4 to 5.
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay, on top of.
Yep.
But now it's not like the governor's plus this is what.
Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay. Any other questions, Mayor?
I hate to raise it, but section 9, which is about the designated downtowns and village centers, because this is about a grant program. I'm very supportive of this language. I was just curious as to why not pull that section out, as it does affect potentially who is eligible for grants.
Understood, I was not aware of that, and it's not my portfolio area, so I didn't remove it. So
Okay.
that is entirely on me. If you feel that it impacts revenues, I'm happy to add to the amendment and take it out.
It would affect potentially who is, eligible for, I mean, I could make the case that it is a clarification.
Yes.
Perhaps more so than just, than a change, really. It's recognizing that, the new town center as a designation is going away. And so, saying the portion of, the center, in order to receive these funds for one of the different steps is, listed or eligible for listing the National Register of Historic Places, unless it's recognized by the program as a pre-existing designated new town center, particularly because the new town center designation is evaporating. So, arguably just a clarification.
But you're saying that I thought there was less that are going to be eligible for this is the historic preservation. Is that what we're talking about? The right section?
Not historic preservation. It's about, there are stepped benefits for, I'm like really like the wrong person to be describing this particularly, but there's stepped benefits for municipalities or downtowns, I suppose, that meet different qualifications. And so there's step 1, 2, and 3, and I think the higher the number, it's like the more dense or the bigger the town. And this had some interaction with 325. We ended up leaving out this section, so we were glad to see it here. But knowing that this had to do with the community investment board's funding structure for their STEP program. Have I captured that more or less?
Separate joint fiscal office, yes.
Okay.
And additional context that I heard when the bill was in Senate Economic Development, General and Housing Affairs, is that this provision is under current practice. It seems like new town centers, right? The problem is that new town center doesn't have anything historic in it. And so the center designations outside of new town centers, right, are really designed to have a historical component. There are 3 new town centers in the state. There's Berlin, Colchester, and South Burlington. It wouldn't impact Berlin and Colchester so much, but South Burlington will meet the step 3 criteria for everything else. So this language would allow them to be a new town center that qualifies for step 3. And the idea is that if Berlin and Colchester or future new town centers met all the rest of the qualifications that would allow them to be a step 3 center, they would be able to participate as well. It is true, right, there is a whole set of benefits that come with being a step 3 designated center. And so theoretically, this language in the future could allow future new town centers to participate at that step 3 level. Includes, grant funding, the sales tax reallocation program, et cetera. I will say that's about the knowledge I have.
Right, because you did include it in your fiscal note, but it's hard to determine what the impact would be.
Exactly, it's kind of so my understanding is that in the current framework, this really would potentially allow South Burlington's new town center for projects in that area to participate in the sales tax reallocation program with grant funding. So it's kind of a marginal thing, but it would be impact money, and if you all felt strongly.
And the sales tax reallocation isn't permanent.
It's a permanent program. There's
but the reallocation of those sales tax dollars in the new town centers. Let's see what's coming where it's temporary.
It is a program where the developer can receive essentially the sales tax revenue or sales tax amount they would have paid for materials that went into the construction. So it's kind of it's connected to a specific project.
Once that's paid, then the sales tax would go to the state. Then no normal, they would go where they normally go.
Once that project is done, yes, then any additional sales tax for the project is not in perpetuity. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, if people want to take it out, we can do that, but I'm okay leaving it.
I'm the beginning also.
Okay, so we have an amendment.
I'll move the amendment.
Okay. The bill, and the amendment has been moved favorably by the senior senator from Lamar.
Is that just because I'm old?
And
Yeah.
the senior
Also
senator
the
from,
junior
Yeah.
senator
from
from.
Great
I'm the
Isle.
junior, senior,
Also the
and
Midland,
medium.
also the Midland.
Oh, this is
Waiting on you.
all set?
Yes. We were gonna talk about the treasurer's thing, but we needed to move along.
Okay.
Thanks for being here,
Senator
It's his
Baruch.
birthday.
Yes, with explanation.
Is it really? Oh.
Senator Brennan, yes. Senator Lyons.
Yes, happy birthday, I was gonna say. Yes.
Senator Norris.
Yes.
Senator Watson.
Yes.
Senator Westman.
Yep.
Senator Birchley.
Yes.
Okay. Reporter.
I'm happy to do it.
Great.
I'm happy you're happy to do it.
Huzzah. I'm glad to meet you.
Is that it for us today?
Well, I was hoping that Council Showman would show himself back.
He
to the
did
committee.
send us.
Oh, he did send it? Can we print it out? Maybe we should.
Okay.
We'll have two.
As far as I'm.
What?
This is on.
But we can't vote out 323 because we don't have it.
be a question.
Oh, 323, we don't have?
No,
Right.
Oh.
we're finance.
Oh,
We're
okay.
done.
So we can't vote.
We're done.
So we can adjourn for the day,
Cool.
Oh, amazing.
Nice.
but I will look at that.
Let me.